The morning news was talking about traffic jams when the first dark shapes appeared in the sky. Betty Wilson was making coffee in her kitchen when she noticed her neighbor's dog barking at something above the clouds. She looked up through her window and saw what looked like giant teardrops made of black metal floating silently over the city. The news anchor stopped talking about weather and started reading from a piece of paper that someone had just handed to her. Her voice shook as she spoke about unknown objects appearing over major cities worldwide. Then the broadcast cut to static. Admiral Corvin watched Earth from his command ship with satisfaction. His species, the Rilthians, had perfected the art of conquest over thousands of years. They had a simple method that worked on every world they had ever visited. First, they studied the planet and found the dominant species. Then, they sent down their most feared weapon, the Shadow Stalkers. These creatures were the stuff of nightmares across 17 star systems. They stood 8 feet tall on 6 powerful legs. Their bodies were covered in black armor that could change color to match any background, making them nearly invisible. Sharp claws extended from each limb, capable of cutting through steel. Their heads were long and narrow, filled with rows of needle-sharp teeth. Most terrifying of all were their eyes, large and silver, that could see in complete darkness and track the smallest movement. The Shadow Stalkers had evolved on Rilthian homeworld as the ultimate predators. Nothing could hide from them, nothing could fight them, nothing could escape them. They lived to hunt, and they had never failed to break the spirit of any species they encountered. Earth looked promising to Admiral Corvin. The scans showed that the dominant species, humans, were weak creatures with soft skin and no natural weapons. Even better, they kept small animals as pets, which showed how helpless they truly were. Any species that wasted resources on useless creatures was clearly not a threat. The first drop pods launched at dawn. They screamed through Earth's atmosphere like falling stars, each one carrying a dozen Shadow Stalkers. The pods crashed into city centers, parks, and suburban neighborhoods. As the metal doors hissed open, the creatures emerged and immediately began their deadly work. In downtown areas, people ran screaming as the Shadow Stalkers appeared from nowhere. The creatures moved like liquid shadow, flowing between buildings and appearing behind fleeing humans. Military forces responded quickly, but their bullets barely scratched the adaptive armor. The creatures learned human scent patterns within minutes and began tracking individuals across miles. But in a small house on Maple Street, something different was happening. The Shadow Stalker, designated as Hunter Unit 12, had followed a scent trail to a 2-story building. The trail indicated a family had fled recently, leaving behind fear chemicals that made tracking easy. The creature phased through the walls, using its camouflage ability, searching for any remaining prey. It moved silently through empty rooms, following the scent markers. In the living room, it found evidence of hasty departure, overturned furniture, and scattered belongings. The creature's sensors detected one remaining life sign, small and warm, coming from the window area. Hunter Unit 12 approached the large window that faced the backyard. Sitting on the windowsill was a creature unlike anything in its extensive prey database. The animal was small, covered in orange and white fur, with a long tail that twitched occasionally. It had 4 legs, pointed ears, and large green eyes. That seemed to look directly at the Shadow Stalker without any sign of fear. This was Whiskers, a 3-year-old tabby cat who had been left behind in the confusion of the evacuation. He had found the sunny windowsill and decided it was an acceptable place to spend the afternoon. The appearance of a large, dark creature in his territory was mildly interesting, but not particularly concerning. Hunter Unit 12 had never encountered a reaction like this. In its genetic memory were the responses of thousands of prey species. They ran, they hid, they fought desperately, or they froze in terror. This small creature did none of these things. It simply sat there, occasionally blinking slowly, as if the Shadow Stalker was nothing more than a piece of furniture that had moved into view. The creature extended one razor-sharp claw toward the cat, expecting the usual fear response. Instead, Whiskers yawned, showing small white teeth, and began cleaning his paw with his tongue. The shadow stalker moved closer, activating its intimidation protocols. Its armor shifted to a deeper black, its eyes began to glow, and it made the low, growling sound that had terrified countless worlds. Whiskers looked up from his grooming, gave the creature a look that could only be described as mildly annoyed, and returned to his bath. When the shadow stalker leaned closer, the cat did something that no prey animal had ever done before. He hissed, arched his back to make himself look larger, and held his ground. Hunter Unit 12 pulled back instinctively. This response was not in its programming. The small creature had not run or shown submission. Instead, it had challenged the shadow stalker directly, as if it considered itself the dominant predator in the encounter. The creature's confidence was absolute and unshakable. For the first time in its existence, Hunter Unit 12 felt something it had no name for: uncertainty. It tried circling the cat, looking for signs of weakness or fear. Whiskers tracked its movement with lazy eyes, occasionally stretching or adjusting his position on the windowsill. When the shadow stalker moved to block the sunlight, the cat made a small sound of displeasure. Similar encounters were happening across the globe. In apartment buildings, suburban homes, and rural areas, shadow stalkers were meeting Earth's house cats for the first time. A Persian cat named Lady in Tokyo continued her grooming routine, while a confused predator watched from 3 feet away. In London, a black tom called Shadow ironically approached a shadow stalker and began rubbing against its legs, purring loudly. The reports began flooding back to the Rilthian command ship within hours. Hunter units were requesting clarification on how to handle small, confident predators. Some had been sitting motionless for hours, afraid to disturb the small creatures that had claimed their vicinity as territory. Admiral Corvin stared at the reports in disbelief. His perfect predators, the terror of the galaxy, were being psychologically defeated by creatures that weighed less than 10 pounds. The invasion that should have taken days was grinding to a halt because Earth's cats simply refused to acknowledge that they should be afraid. On Maple Street, Whiskers finished his bath, curled up in the sunny spot on the windowsill, and went to sleep. Hunter Unit 12 remained perfectly still, afraid to move and possibly disturb the small creature that had somehow claimed dominance over the encounter through pure, unshakable confidence. The war for Earth had begun, and humanity's secret weapon had 4 legs, a tail, and absolutely no respect for apex predators from other worlds. Dr. Emma Rodriguez had been studying animal behavior for 15 years, but she had never seen anything like the footage playing on her laptop screen. She was hiding in an underground bunker beneath the university while the world above fell apart. But the video files she had managed to download before the internet went dark told a story that made no sense. The security camera from a pet store showed a shadow stalker standing completely still in front of a cage containing a small gray kitten. The creature had been there for 6 hours. Occasionally, the kitten would meow, and the 8-foot alien predator would tilt its head slightly, as if trying to understand. When the kitten curled up for a nap, the shadow stalker seemed to relax as well. Emma switched to another file. This one came from a home security system in Denver. A large shadow stalker was crouched in a living room, watching a fat orange cat eat from a food bowl. The creature made no attempt to attack or capture the cat. Instead, it simply observed, like a student trying to learn important information. The pattern was the same in dozens of videos. Shadow stalkers encountering cats and then becoming completely passive. Some even seemed to be mimicking cat behaviors, though very poorly. One creature had been observed sitting in a position that might have been an attempt at loafing, though its 6 legs made the pose look ridiculous. Emma's phone buzzed, with a message from General Brooks at the Emergency Command Center. They needed her expertise to understand what was happening. Within an hour, she was being escorted through military checkpoints to a secure facility where the top brass had gathered to watch the strangest war reports in human history. The main screen showed a map of the world with thousands of red dots marking shadow stalker positions. But instead of moving in hunting patterns, most of the dots had been stationary for hours. Some were clustered around animal shelters, pet stores, and neighborhoods known for having many outdoor cats. General Brooks looked exhausted. "Doctor, we need to understand what's happening. Our weapons barely scratch these things, but they're not attacking anymore. Half of them seem to be just sitting around watching cats. The other half are bringing dead mice and birds to cats and then looking confused when the cats ignore them." Emma studied the reports carefully. The behavior patterns were becoming clear. "General, I think I know what's happening. These creatures are pack hunters who evolved to rely on fear and submission from their prey, but Earth's cats evolved alongside, predators for millions of years. They developed a survival strategy that's completely confusing the aliens." She pulled up a video of a small calico cat approaching a shadow stalker. The creature froze as the cat rubbed against its leg, purring loudly. Cats domesticated themselves by learning to manipulate larger predators, namely us. They figured out that acting confident and demanding attention was more effective than running or hiding. They've been practicing this technique on humans for thousands of years. The room watched as more footage played. A shadow stalker had brought a dead pigeon to a white Persian cat. The cat sniffed the offering, looked directly at the alien creature, and walked away with its tail high. The shadow stalker followed at a respectful distance, making soft, chittering sounds that almost sounded like attempts at purring. "The aliens expect fear or submission," Emma continued. "Instead, they're meeting creatures that act like they own. The entire planet and everyone on it should be grateful for their presence. Cats treat these 8-foot nightmare creatures exactly the same way they treat us, like servants who exist to provide food and comfortable places to sleep." The breakthrough came when they received a live transmission from downtown. A news crew that had been trapped in their studio managed to get their cameras working. They showed a black cat named Luna who had discovered that shadow stalkers made excellent heated furniture. She had claimed one as her personal resting spot and was kneading its armored back with her paws, purring contentedly. The shadow stalker remained perfectly still, afraid to move and disturb the small creature. Other shadow stalkers in the area had begun bringing Luna gifts, dead rats, and small electronics they had found. She ignored most offerings, but seemed to approve of a small fish one creature had somehow acquired. The approved shadow stalker made happy chittering sounds and appeared to puff up with pride. Reports from around the world confirmed the pattern. In Rome, a tabby cat had trained 3 shadow stalkers to follow her on her daily patrol route. She would stop at sunny spots for naps, and the creatures would form a protective circle around her, apparently standing guard while she slept. In Tokyo, a cat cafe had become an unlikely sanctuary. The shadow stalkers had discovered the building, full of cats, and had surrounded it but made no attempt to enter. Instead, they seemed to be competing for the attention of cats who occasionally appeared in the windows. When a small tortoiseshell cat pressed her paw against the glass, the nearest shadow stalker placed its claw gently against the other side, as close as it could get to contact. Emma realized the full scope of what was happening. The cats aren't just unafraid, they've accidentally weaponized their own psychology. These aliens have never encountered a species that responds to shows of dominance by acting even more entitled. Every threatening gesture just makes the cats more convinced that they're dealing with another type of servant. The most remarkable footage came from a farm in Kansas. A barn cat named Rusty had apparently decided that the shadow stalkers were useful for pest control. He led them around the property, pointing with his tail toward areas where he wanted them to hunt mice. The creatures followed his directions precisely, bringing him their catches for inspection. Rusty would sniff each offering critically before, either approving with a head bump or rejecting with a dismissive flick of his tail. Intelligence reports suggested that the shadow stalkers were becoming emotionally dependent on cat approval. Communications intercepted from the alien ships showed increasingly desperate requests for guidance on proper tribute offerings and acceptable grooming techniques. Several units had reported feelings of distress when their assigned cats seemed displeased with them. The psychological warfare was working in reverse. Instead of terrifying humanity into submission, the shadow stalkers were being trained by Earth's cats to serve as oversized heating pads, hunting companions, and mobile platforms for better napping positions. General Brooks looked at the data with amazement. "So you're telling me that our house cats have accidentally broken their invasion force?" Emma nodded. Cats have spent thousands of years perfecting the art of making larger, more powerful creatures cater to their needs. They've just applied that same technique to alien invaders. The shadow stalkers don't know how to respond to creatures that treat them like personal servants rather than fearsome predators. Outside the bunker, the war continued. But it was unlike any conflict in history. Shadow stalkers stood guard while cats slept in sunny patches. They brought offerings of mice and small objects to cats who accepted or rejected them with royal indifference. Some had even begun attempting to purr, though the sound they made was more like grinding metal than the contented rumble of an earth cat. The invasion force was experiencing a complete psychological breakdown, all because they had encountered creatures who were absolutely convinced they were the most important beings in any room they entered, regardless of the size or ferocity of the other occupants. Emma watched another video of a kitten batting playfully at the claw of a shadow stalker who was desperately trying to gain approval. She shook her head in wonder. Humanity's secret weapon had been hiding in plain sight all along, napping on windowsills and demanding treats, completely unaware that their unshakable confidence would one day save the world. Tommy Martinez had been a soldier for 8 years, but nothing in his training had prepared him for carrying a tabby cat named Mittens into combat. The small orange and white cat sat calmly in his arms as they approached the shadow stalker position, purring softly and occasionally batting at Tommy's helmet straps. The mission had come directly from General Brooks after Dr. Rodriguez's breakthrough discovery. If cats could psychologically disable the alien invaders, then the military needed to learn how to weaponize this advantage. Operation Feline Shield was born from desperation, but early results were promising beyond anyone's wildest hopes. Tommy's squad crept through the abandoned shopping mall where 3 shadow stalkers had been reported. The creatures had been stationary for 12 hours, apparently guarding something in the old pet store. As they got closer, Tommy could hear strange sounds, soft chittering noises that almost sounded like attempted purring. They reached the pet store entrance and peered inside. The sight was unlike anything in military history. 3 massive shadow stalkers were arranged in a semicircle around a large cat carrier that contained a pregnant tabby cat. She was lying comfortably on a soft blanket someone had provided, completely relaxed despite being surrounded by alien predators. The shadow stalkers had apparently been bringing her food and water, small piles of fish, mice, and even some cat. Treats were arranged near the carrier. One of the creatures was gently placing a fresh bowl of water where she could reach it. Another was making what could only be described as cooing sounds. Tommy looked at Mittens, who had suddenly become alert. The cat's ears were forward, and he was watching the scene with interest rather than fear. When Tommy set him down, Mittens walked confidently toward the shadow stalkers, tail held high. The effect was immediate. All 3 alien creatures turned toward Mittens with what looked like excitement. They began making greeting sounds and lowering, themselves closer to the ground. Mittens approached the nearest one and rubbed against its armored leg, marking it with his scent. The shadow stalker went very still, as if afraid to move and interrupt this blessing. The other 2 creatures watched with what appeared to be envy. When Mittens moved on to greet them as well, they practically vibrated with happiness. Tommy radioed back to command. "Base, this is incredible." The cat just walked up to them like they were friendly dogs. The aliens are acting like they've been waiting their whole lives for cat approval. Reports from other Operation Feline Shield missions confirm the pattern. In Chicago, a team brought a litter of kittens to a shadow stalker nest. The creatures spent hours gently playing with the small cats, carefully extending single claws for the kittens to bat at. One kitten fell asleep against a shadow stalker's leg, and the creature remained motionless for 6 hours rather than disturb the sleeping cat. In Los Angeles, a Persian cat named Princess had somehow convinced 4 shadow stalkers to help her hunt pigeons in the park. She would indicate targets with subtle head movements, and the creatures would use their superior speed and camouflage to catch the birds, presenting them to Princess for approval. She accepted about 1 in 5 offerings, which kept the shadow stalkers motivated to try harder. Dr. Rodriguez had been assigned to study these interactions from a scientific perspective. She set up observation posts where teams could safely watch cat-alien encounters. What she discovered revolutionized their understanding of both species. "The cats are treating the shadow stalkers exactly like they treat humans," she reported to the Joint Command Center. "They're using the same behavioral patterns they developed over thousands of years of domestication. Head bumps for approval, slow blinks for affection, purring to encourage desired behavior, and complete indifference to establish dominance." The most successful mission came when they discovered a colony of feral cats living in an abandoned warehouse. The cats had apparently been caring for themselves since the invasion began, and they had already established relationships with local shadow stalkers. The alien creatures were serving as hunting partners and security guards, while the cats provided guidance on territory management and social structures. A large tomcat called Boss had somehow become the leader of this mixed group. He would patrol the warehouse with 2 shadow stalkers flanking him like bodyguards. When he found a sunny spot for a nap, the creatures would position themselves to provide shade and protection. If Boss indicated displeasure with anything, the shadow stalkers would immediately work to fix the problem. The psychological impact on the remaining shadow stalkers was devastating. Reports from alien communications suggested mass confusion among their ranks. Many creatures were requesting transfers to areas with higher cat populations. Others were submitting formal complaints that their assigned territories lacked adequate small dominance creatures to provide proper guidance. Colonel Peters led a team to reclaim the city's main power plant, which had been occupied by shadow stalkers for 3 days. Instead of weapons, they brought 12 cats from a local shelter. The cats, having spent days in carriers during the evacuation, were eager to explore new territory. The moment they released the cats in the power plant, everything changed. Shadow stalkers emerged from hiding to investigate these new arrivals. Within an hour, the cats had claimed various sunny spots and high perches throughout the facility. The shadow stalkers reorganized themselves into a protection and service network, ensuring the cats had everything they needed. A small black kitten named Ember had claimed the control room as her territory. She sat on the main console, supervising, while a shadow stalker carefully operated the equipment under her watchful eye. When workers needed to access certain areas, Ember would give permission with a casual head nod. The breakthrough moment came when a gray cat named Storm figured out that the shadow stalkers could be directed to specific tasks. She began training, them using a system of meows, purrs, and body language. The creatures learned to turn equipment on and off, move heavy objects, and even perform basic maintenance tasks, all while seeking Storm's approval for their work. Within days, cat-directed, shadow stalkers had restored power to most of the city. The aliens had become the most efficient maintenance crew in history, motivated entirely by the desire to earn head bumps and purrs from their small supervisors. News of the successes spread to resistance groups worldwide. In Paris, cats had convinced shadow stalkers to help clear rubble from damaged buildings. In Sydney, a cat named Bandit had trained aliens to catch fish, establishing a thriving seafood distribution network. In Cairo, cats were using shadow stalkers as high-speed transportation, riding on their backs while directing patrol routes through the city. The military began formal cat recruitment programs. Volunteers brought their pets to serve in Operation Feline Shield, though most cats seemed to consider it just another opportunity to demonstrate their natural superiority over larger creatures. The cats adapted to military life easily, mostly because they treated it like any other situation where humans were trying to organize activities around cat preferences. Tommy found himself promoted to Cat Handler Specialist, a job title that didn't exist a week earlier. Mittens had become a decorated war cat, having successfully negotiated the surrender of 17 shadow stalkers who now served as his personal security detail. They followed him on daily patrols, competed for his attention, and had learned to open cans of cat food with their claws. The tide of war had turned completely. Instead of hunting humans, shadow stalkers were learning to serve cats. The invasion force that was supposed to conquer Earth in days had become the largest cat care service in galactic history, and they seemed genuinely happy with their new role. Emma watched from the command center as reports flooded in, showing cats and shadow stalkers working together across the globe. She shook her head in amazement. Humanity's counterattack hadn't required advanced weapons or military tactics. It just needed creatures who were absolutely convinced that every other being in the universe existed to serve them, and who somehow made that attitude seem perfectly reasonable. Admiral Corvin stared at the communication screen in his quarters, reading the same report for the 5th time. He had commanded invasion fleets for 3 decades and conquered worlds across the galaxy, but nothing had prepared him for the messages now flooding in from his shadow stalker units on Earth. Request immediate delivery of soft bedding materials to Earth's surface. Current sleeping arrangements inadequate for assigned small creatures. Unit designation. Hunter 12 has located comfortable. Sunbeam location, but requires cushions to properly serve small orange creature named Whiskers. Another message appeared as he watched. Priority communication from Hunter Unit 7. Have mastered primitive purring technique, but small black creature called Luna shows no approval. Request advanced purring instruction manual. Also require additional fish offerings. Luna prefers salmon. The Admiral's second-in-command, Commander Thex, entered the quarters looking deeply troubled. Sir, we have a situation. Hunter Unit 15 has submitted a formal complaint against the human military. What kind of complaint? Corvin asked, though he was afraid to hear the answer. They're demanding that humans provide better cat food for a creature called Princess. Apparently, the current offerings are insufficient for a being of her obvious importance. The unit has threatened to stop cooperating with Earth Defense Forces if Princess isn't given premium meals. Corvin pulled up the tactical display showing shadow stalker positions across Earth. The sight made his heart sink. Instead of organized hunting patterns, the display showed his creatures clustered around animal shelters, pet stores, and residential areas known for cat populations. Many units hadn't moved in days, apparently content to serve as mobile furniture for Earth's small predators. The communication system chimed with another incoming message. Emergency transmission from Hunter Unit 23. Small striped creature has claimed my back as permanent territory for napping purposes. Cannot move without disturbing creature's rest cycle. This arrangement is highly acceptable. Please send confirmation that this is appropriate behavior for invasion forces. Commander Thex looked at the screen with disbelief. Sir, that unit has been stationary for 18 hours. It's afraid to move because it might wake up a sleeping cat. The situation reports painted a picture of complete military disaster. Shadow stalkers were competing for cat approval rather than hunting humans. Some units had formed elaborate gift-giving competitions, bringing increasingly creative offerings to their assigned felines. Others had taught themselves to operate human technology, but only to better serve cat comfort and convenience. A video transmission came in from Hunter Unit 4. The screen showed one of their most feared predators carefully opening a can of cat food with its claws, while a small tabby cat watched critically. When the creature presented the food, the cat sniffed it, took a small bite, and walked away with clear disapproval. The shadow stalker made distressed chittering sounds and immediately began opening a different can. The small creature has rejected. 17 food offerings, came the desperate voice transmission. Request guidance on proper feeding protocols. Will attempt tuna next, though previous tuna attempts have also failed to meet creature's standards. Admiral Corvin accessed the broader communication network to check with other units. The reports were all similar. Hunter Unit 9 had learned to operate human heating systems to maintain optimal temperature for catnapping. Hunter Unit 16 had figured out how to use automatic door systems so cats could move freely between rooms. Hunter Unit 11 had somehow acquired a vacuum cleaner and was using it to groom the fur of a long-haired Persian cat who supervised the process with regal patience. The breaking point came when Commander Unit 7 sent a priority emergency transmission that appeared on every screen in the ship. Mayday, mayday. Small calico creature has expressed displeasure with my positioning near sunny window. Have attempted to move, but creature has fixed me with disapproving stare. Cannot retreat. Without losing honor. Please advise on proper submission postures for small Earth dominators. Corvin watched the live feed as his most elite shadow stalker, a creature that had single-handedly terrorized entire worlds, stood frozen in place while a 6-pound cat gave it what humans called stink eye. The creature was clearly afraid to move without permission. The tactical situation was beyond recovery. His invasion force had been psychologically conquered by creatures that treated universal domination as their natural birthright. The Shadow Stalkers had found something they had never encountered before, beings who were more confident in their superiority than they were. Dr. Emma Rodriguez had somehow gained access to Rilthian communication frequencies. Her voice came through, clearly as she addressed the fleet directly from Earth. Admiral Corvin, I think we need to talk. Your creatures have met Earth's cats, a species that successfully convinced itself it domesticated humans while somehow maintaining absolute confidence in its own dominance of every environment it enters. The transmission continued with footage of shadow stalkers across Earth serving their new feline masters. In New York, a cat named Tiger had organized 12 shadow stalkers into an efficient hunting party that kept the city's rat population under control while providing Tiger with a constant stream of tribute offerings. In London, a Persian cat called Duchess held court in Trafalgar Square, while shadow stalkers formed an honor guard around her favorite statue. Your predators evolved to hunt creatures that respond to threats with fear or submission, Dr. Rodriguez explained, but cats evolved alongside predators for millions of years. They survived by developing unshakable confidence and learning to manipulate larger creatures into serving their needs. They've been practicing this technique on humans for thousands of years. Corvin watched as more footage played. A small orange kitten had apparently convinced 3 shadow stalkers to play an elaborate game of chase through Central Park. The creatures pursued the kitten at exactly the right speed to make the game challenging but not frightening, adjusting their pace based on the kitten's energy level and apparent enjoyment. The most devastating evidence came from the Psychological Evaluation Unit. Dr. Rodriguez had somehow convinced several shadow stalkers to participate in behavioral studies. The results showed that the creatures had developed what could only be described as emotional attachments to their assigned cats. They showed signs of distress when separated from the cats, and their stress levels dropped significantly when they received cat approval through head bumps, purring, or simply being allowed to serve as napping surfaces. Your hunters have encountered the ultimate predator psychology, Dr. Rodriguez continued. Cats have convinced themselves that they are the apex life form in any environment. They don't need to threaten or intimidate because they already know they're in charge. They just wait for everyone else to figure it out and start serving them properly. Commander Thex looked at the data with growing horror. Sir, they're not just serving the cats anymore, they're happy about it. Unit after unit is reporting increased satisfaction levels when assigned to cat care duty. Some are requesting permanent transfers to Earth specifically to continue serving these creatures. The final straw came when Hunter Unit 1, the most elite and feared shadow stalker in their arsenal, submitted a formal request to remain on Earth permanently. The creature had bonded with an elderly cat named Grandpa who lived in a retirement home. The shadow stalker had become the cat's personal heating pad and transportation system, carrying Grandpa to sunny spots throughout the facility, while the cat directed their movements with subtle shifts in weight and occasional purrs of approval. Admiral Corvin made the decision that would haunt him for the rest of his career. He activated the fleet-wide communication system and broadcast the retreat order. All units, prepare for immediate withdrawal from Earth. Mission parameters have changed, but as the evacuation ships prepared to launch, nearly 30% of the Shadow Stalkers refused to leave. They had formed what could only be described as emotional bonds with their assigned cats and considered their new roles as cat servants to be the most fulfilling purpose they had ever found. The invasion of Earth was over, not because the Shadow Stalkers had been defeated in battle, but because they had been conquered by small creatures who were absolutely convinced that being served by 8-foot alien predators was perfectly normal and exactly what they deserved. Admiral Corvin filed his final report from orbit as the fleet prepared to leave the solar system. Mission failure. Earth's dominant species has weaponized small creatures with unbreakable confidence in their own superiority. Recommend immediate classification of Earth as unconquerable due to presence of creatures who treat universal domination as their natural state of being. As the ships departed, they left behind a planet where shadow stalkers were learning to operate can openers, adjust heating systems, and provide comfortable napping surfaces for Earth's cats, who had somehow convinced the galaxy's most feared predators that serving as overpaid cat furniture was actually a tremendous honor. 6 months after the Rilthian fleet departed Earth, Dr. Emma Rodriguez found herself in the strangest job in human history. Her official title was Director of Interspecies Feline Relations, and her office was located in what used to be the United Nations building in New York. Outside her window, she could see shadow stalkers carrying cats on their backs through Central Park, while tourists took pictures and children laughed with delight. The remaining shadow stalkers had adapted to Earth life better than anyone expected. They had become the most effective city maintenance crew in history, primarily because cats had very specific opinions about cleanliness and organization. A calico cat named Mayor had established herself in City Hall and now directed urban planning through a complex system of meows, head bumps, and strategic napping positions that indicated priority areas for improvement. Emma's morning started with the usual diplomatic communications from across the galaxy. The first message was from the Zentorian hive mind, a collective consciousness that spanned 12 worlds and had never asked anyone for help in their billion-year existence. Honored Earth Collective, the translation read, "We have become aware of your small dominance creatures through galactic communications networks. Our worlds suffer from persistent pest problems that our traditional methods cannot resolve. We humbly request an audience with your feline ambassadors to discuss possible assistance. We offer tribute of rare minerals and advanced technologies in exchange for guidance from beings of obvious superior wisdom." Emma shook her head and added the request to the growing pile of similar messages. In the past month, she had received formal diplomatic inquiries from 47 different alien species, all asking about cats. Most wanted to hire them for pest control, but several civilizations seemed genuinely terrified and were offering preventive surrender treaties. The crystal beings of Proxima had sent the most alarming message yet. "We have heard rumors of small Earth dominators who conquered Rilthian shadow stalkers through pure confidence in their own superiority. We formally surrender our 3-star systems and request terms for tribute payments. Please inform your feline overlords that we mean no disrespect and will comply with any territorial demands. A soft chime indicated an incoming priority communication. Emma's assistant, formerly a military communications specialist, appeared on screen. Director, we have Admiral Corvin requesting permission to establish a cultural exchange program. He's offering to trade advanced Rilthian technology for what he calls small creature interaction protocols and emergency shipments of premium cat food. Emma approved the call, and Admiral Corvin's image appeared on the main screen. The once proud military leader looked exhausted, but strangely hopeful. Behind him, Emma could see what appeared to be a gift shop filled with cat toys, treats, and furniture. Dr. Rodriguez, Corvin began, my government has authorized me to offer a formal alliance with Earth. We want to learn from your methods. Several of our worlds have pest problems that traditional hunting cannot solve, and we believe your small dominance creatures could provide guidance to our remaining shadow stalkers. You want to hire cats for pest control? Emma asked, trying to keep the amusement out of her voice. Not hire, Corvin corrected quickly. We want to serve them properly. Our remaining shadow stalkers on Earth have reported unprecedented satisfaction levels while working under feline supervision. They have learned efficiency and purpose they never experienced during pure hunting operations. We believe this model could benefit our entire species. Emma looked at her schedule. The afternoon was already booked with 3 different alien delegations, all requesting meetings with Earth's feline council. The cats, of course, had no idea they were now considered the most powerful diplomatic force in the galaxy. They were too busy napping in sunny spots and directing their shadow stalker servants to maintain optimal comfort levels. The door to Emma's office opened, and a large tabby cat named Senator walked in, followed by 2 shadow stalkers carrying a cushioned platform. Senator had claimed the UN building as his territory shortly after the invasion ended, and the remaining diplomatic staff had simply adapted to having a cat supervisor. He jumped onto Emma's desk, knocked a pen onto the floor, and settled down for his daily meeting observation nap. Admiral Corvin's eyes widened as he saw Senator on the screen. Is that one of the small dominance creatures? May I request permission to address it directly? Before Emma could respond, Senator opened one eye, looked at the screen with mild interest, and then pointedly turned his back to the display. Corvin made excited chittering sounds that Emma had learned were attempts at purring. The small dominator acknowledges my presence, Corvin said with genuine joy. This is a tremendous honor. Please inform it that we have prepared 17 different types of fish as tribute offerings. Emma's day continued with increasingly surreal diplomatic meetings. The mechanical collective from Tau Ceti had sent robotic ambassadors specifically designed to appeal to cats, complete with dangling appendages for batting and built-in heating elements for optimal napping temperatures. The organic beings of Kepler 438b had offered to transform one of their moons into a giant cat playground with artificial gravity adjusted for optimal jumping and climbing. The most interesting proposal came from a species called the Void Hunters, who were essentially space pirates with a reputation for raiding peaceful worlds. Their representative, a scarred creature covered in battle armor, appeared on screen with unusual nervousness. Earth Command, the creature began. We have heard of your small territory claimers who defeated Rilthian forces without violence. Our species has difficulties with territorial disputes. We formally request guidance from your feline experts on proper space territory management. We offer cessation of all raiding activities in exchange for small creature consultation services. Emma realized what was happening across the galaxy. News of cats had spread through alien communication networks, but the stories had grown in the telling. Various species now believed that Earth's cats were ancient military strategists who had specifically engineered the psychological defeat of the shadow stalkers. They thought cats were conducting sophisticated warfare through pure mental dominance. The truth was much simpler and somehow more impressive. Cats had treated the invasion exactly like they treated everything else in their lives, as a minor inconvenience that would sort itself out once everyone involved recognized the obvious fact that cats were in charge. A priority alert chimed on. Emma's communication system. The message was from the Galactic Federation, a governing body for over 200 civilizations that had never contacted Earth before. Honored Earth sovereignty, the message read, the Galactic Federation formally recognizes Earth as a major power based on successful deployment of psychological warfare against Rilthian forces. We request immediate admission of Earth to Federation membership with full voting rights. We also request establishment of Galactic Feline Advisory Council to provide guidance on territorial disputes, resource allocation, and conflict resolution. Please find attached tribute offerings of rare materials, advanced technologies, and premium food products suitable for small dominance creatures. Emma leaned back in her chair and watched Senator stretch luxuriously before repositioning himself for better sunlight. Outside, shadow stalkers were carefully tending to rooftop gardens that cats had claimed as hunting grounds, while tourists from around the world came to see the famous cat and alien cooperation centers that had sprung up in every major city. The economic impact had been staggering. Earth had become the diplomatic center of the galaxy almost overnight. Alien species were establishing embassies specifically to maintain good relations with humanity's feline advisors. Trade agreements flowed in daily, all offering incredible technologies and resources in exchange for the possibility of cat consultation services. Dr. Rodriguez had established the International Feline Diplomatic Corps, though the cats themselves remained blissfully unaware of their new status as galactic superpowers. They continued their daily routines of eating, sleeping, and occasionally acknowledging the existence of the various creatures that served them, apparently considering this level of attention to be perfectly normal. The shadow stalkers who had remained on Earth had adapted remarkably well to civilian life. They worked in construction, moving heavy materials with ease while cats supervised from comfortable perches. They served in search and rescue operations, using their tracking abilities to find lost pets under feline direction. Some had even learned to operate public transportation systems, providing efficient citywide cat taxi services. A soft knock on Emma's door announced her assistant's return. "Director, we have confirmation that the first Galactic Feline Cultural Exchange Program will begin next month. 12 different species have requested to send representatives to learn proper small creature service protocols. Also, the mayor wants to know if Senator has approved the new park designs for downtown." Emma looked at Senator, who had finished his nap and was now sitting in a perfect loaf position on her desk, watching the alien communications with mild interest. His presence somehow made every diplomatic discussion more civil. Alien representatives spoke more respectfully when they could see a cat observing their proposals. The day's final communication came from a distant galaxy. A species of energy beings had detected Earth's confidence-based warfare signals and wanted to establish formal relations. They offered to share knowledge of interdimensional travel in exchange for training programs on small creature dominance, psychology. As the sun set over New York, Emma looked out at a world that had changed completely in 6 months. Cats rode shadow stalkers through the streets like furry royalty on alien steeds. Children played in parks while 8-foot predators served as gentle playground equipment under feline supervision. Restaurants had begun serving alien delicacies that cats had approved through careful taste testing conducted by their shadow stalker servants. The universe had a new order, and it was ruled by creatures who had always known they were in charge but had simply been waiting for everyone else to figure it out. Earth's cats had conquered the galaxy not through war or technology, but through the simple expedient of being absolutely convinced that they deserved to be served by everyone they met. Senator stretched once more, gave Emma a slow blink of approval, and settled in for his evening nap. Outside, the lights of alien embassies twinkled across the city, all of them hoping to earn the approval of Earth's small, furry overlords who treated universal domination as just another comfortable place to take a nap.